Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to New Voices. We are so excited to have a wonderful guest with us today. He is a financial advisor. He is the senior vice president of Inspire Financial Group. He is a husband. He is a father. He is a friend. He's an amazing man doing amazing things. And he's actually up for a TED Talk soon, a TEDx Talk soon. We bring to you none other than the amazing Mikey Manghum. Mikey, welcome to New Voices.
Man, it's an honor to be here, and I need you to come everywhere with me and make that introduction because that was wonderful. I loved hearing it. It's nice being over here.
You got chills, huh?
That's right.
Very good, very good. We're going to start off with some very simple conversation.
Okay.
We met a few months ago, almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
And of course, at the amazing Antoinette's over some pastries and some tea, and we had a wonderful conversation, a wonderful dialogue, which sparked a friendship. And what I'm so intrigued about is your story, right? You shared some things, and I want you to share with our audience here. Tell us your story.
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to go all the way back?
You can go all the way back. Take us across the water.
Well, as the audience is probably aware of by now, I don't have an Oklahoma accent. I was raised in the UK, so my dad was a professional athlete. He was playing basketball in Scotland. He met my mom there. I was born in Scotland, raised in England. And growing up with a professional athlete as a father, you try to emulate, what you see. So I grew up playing basketball. Had a basketball in my hand from the time I can remember. Had a lot of cool opportunities representing my country at the U16, U17, U18 level. And then came over to the United States to play basketball at Oral Roberts University back in 2009. Ended up studying finance, did grad school. Really thought I'd be on the first flight out of Tulsa back to Europe, but it didn't pan out that way. And so here I am today in person in Tulsa. So that's the quick overview. So now that we can dive into any piece of that you want, but I know there was a lot of different things that we connected on that first coffee. So
for sure, yeah. And so you have a degree in undergrad in finance,
and then a master's in business administration.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. My undergrad's in finance as well, so we brothers there as well.
Nice.
What I'm interested in is, you have this father who's a professional athlete. You're emulating him throughout your life, right? At what point did you have to start to become Mikey and not Mikey's father?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Man, that is such a good question. I think being Terry's son definitely was something that was there and was present, which I was proud of. Like, I'm not going to knock that whatsoever, but obviously that's about growing into my identity. I think when that really first started happening in me was when I decided not to play my redshirt senior year of basketball at Oral Roberts. It actually caused a little bit of falling out with me and my dad because he thought I should stick around, take advantage of the scholarship. But I felt like basketball, at least in that season, was done. But right after that, I'm like, who am I? Like, if I'm not Mikey, the basketball player, right, going to be a professional athlete, what's next for me? My dad didn't have to figure the answer to that question out until he was in his 40s.
Wow.
He played semi-professionally till he was 40-something. So me at 22 years old, I was confused, and that's really where that journey started. But also, I should also say my mom was a teacher my whole life. So also my grades, getting straight A's, nothing less than a B, that was also part of my identity too.
Right.
So around that same time, I'm done with school. There's no tests left to take. There's no basketball games left to play.
Right.
So 22, 23 years old, I think, is really when I awoke to the idea of I got to figure out who I want to be now.
It reminds me of the movie The Lion King when, Mufasa had died, right?
Yeah.
And Simba got word that Pride Rock was under attack, and it wasn't what he thought it was going to be. And I remember a particular moment in the movie where Rafiki the baboon told him to look into the water, and he looked, and he said, "I don't see anything." And he told him, which I thought was so powerful, he said, "Look harder." And when he looked in the water again, he saw his dad. But better yet, he saw a king. And sometimes, like, when you look more deeply within yourself, you'll see something that you never saw before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what I kind of deduced from what you just shared is that, originally being like your dad was the easy part because you had a model to go after. But the hard part is looking within you to see what you didn't see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the path that you're blazing right now for your children.
Absolutely. And I think to keep in mind that I don't want to put the pressure on them that they have to be me.
Right.
Or anything, there's certain characteristics that I would like for them to emulate. But trying to educate them at an early age of what is your path, what is your lane. It doesn't have to be basketball, it doesn't have to be finance. But what's so interesting is, I was listening to something the other day, and the guy was talking about how the question of am I worthy, am I valuable, is kind of a trauma-informed question to be asking ourselves, right? And we can go down a whole rabbit trail of why that is, but that there are things that happen through our life that call that into question. It's not that who we are changes or our inherent value changes at any point during our life. It's just that we have these experiences maybe put on us or maybe, self-inflicted at times where we start to ask that question. So identifying what am I bringing to the table? What are my strengths? What value do I have? How do I want to impact my community, my world? Those are the questions that need to be asked if we're really going to step into whoever could be in that reflection, as you say.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. So you come through ORU, right? And you now have a basketball career that you go into. Tell us a little bit about that time.
Man, my time at ORU was fantastic. I will say it was a culture shock.
Okay.
Growing up in the UK, coming over, going to a private Christian school with the rules and the regulations. Honestly, I think it's exactly what 18-year-old Mikey needed at the time. But there was definitely parts of it that I wanted to push against. But it's kind of an interesting story because I came in not as a full-ride scholarship athlete. I had some academic scholarship, which was great. But that first year on the team, I was just a walk-on. A preferred walk-on is what they called it. But I didn't have any basketball money.
Right.
So I was pretty determined to change that within my first year or two of being there. And had some opportunities with guys that got injured to step up and play a little bit. So I ended up giving up that first year of eligibility by playing the last part of the season. And through that process and, just putting the work in and stepping up, coaches they pulled me aside after that first season and said, "Hey, we appreciate what you did for the team. You lost a year of eligibility doing that. We're going to give that back to you next year. And then all the rest of your time here at ORU, you're going to be a full ride athlete."
Wonderful. Wow.
So that was, an incredible journey. I'm bypassing all the extra hours in the gym and the running and the trying to put on weight, right? Because I got there at like 6'2", 172, and they're like, "We need you 195 by the end of this year." So,
oh boy. That's not the problem I had. Yeah. My problem's the other way.
I was full my whole freshman year, it felt like. So, but then going through that journey of being a scholarship athlete, fighting for time, fighting for a starting position, it was incredible. An incredible journey. I battled a lot of injuries, but doesn't take away from traveling, playing the sport I loved with some guys that I loved, and getting to play on some of the biggest stages. Growing up as a kid in the UK, watching these Hall of Fame coaches coach at places like Gonzaga and West Virginia and Texas Tech, and then stepping onto those courts and playing basketball, surreal. So grateful for my time there. And in the classroom, I had some incredible professors and educators and mentors. So, it was definitely a 4 or 5 year journey, but highlights all throughout.
One more question right in that space. Anybody you played against that kind of had you a little awestruck or maybe a little nervous, we'll say?
Going and playing at Louisville.
Okay.
Man, Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino,
Rick Pitino's on the sideline. They're ranked. here's the thing. I was awestruck and nervous, and that was my red shirt. I knew I wasn't getting in the game.
Right.
It was so loud in that arena. And they hounded us the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous more because I knew what practice was going to look like for the week
next
after
day.
that. Yeah, because I didn't play in the game, but I didn't get to skip practice either.
Right.
They filmed a Papa John's commercial at halftime during that game. Some fan hit a half-court shot. The crowd went nuts in the middle of us getting chewed out in the locker room.
Wow.
So, but the game that I played in that I was probably most nervous was when we went and played at Gonzaga.
Okay.
That was pretty rattling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. So part of what New You does is we help people through pivots, right? And even to pivot, we'll say.
Yeah.
And so what I would like for you to do is just share with us a little bit of a time where you had to pivot.
Yeah.
And what did that look like? What were some of the ways you felt in those moments? And then what would you say got you over the hump?
Man, I think the process of transitioning from my previous work experience into what I'm doing now as a financial advisor, that was a season of pivots in my life for probably a year and a half long stretch. I think the first one was realizing that I wasn't satisfied with the work I was doing at the time and pivoting to be in an industry that I was passionate about. We spoke about having finance degrees. I knew in college I wanted to be in that industry, graduated and didn't find a spot right away. So I did other things for a while. But having that moment of realizing, no, this is what you really feel aligns with your purpose and your calling. It's time to make a switch. You got to have some difficult conversations. You got to risk and kind of bet on yourself a little bit. You're going to give up a full-time W-2 income to make this happen.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So betting on yourself and giving up the safety net of W-2.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So it sounds great. I mean, looking back, like it sounds crazy. It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yes.
And I wouldn't trade it. But people ask me sometimes, would you do it all over again? I said, I really would rather not start that whole process again.
Right.
But I think, Aaron, when you are so resolute on the purpose you have and what you're being called to, and you understand that the driving forces and the internal motivators are aligned with what that career path offers, I think you just go with it. You just run. And I knew, but so in doing that though, I knew there couldn't be this idea of I need an out just in case this doesn't work.
Right. No safety net.
I told myself and I told my wife, I'm going to give this at least 36 months and I'm going to burn the ships. Which means I'm going to have no recourse.
Right.
I'm just going to go all the way in, 2 feet in, head first, however you want to refer to that. And I'm going to give it time to develop. Now, the reason I said 36 months is only because I was married.
Right.
And I felt like she deserved a sense of security, right? It's like, hey, if I'm really struggling after 36 months, I'll do something to help provide a little bit better. But I think if it wasn't for her, I would have just been pig-headed, determined until I made it work.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I knew there was an alignment with the type of life I wanted to have, the fulfillment in my career that I wanted to have, and the service I wanted to provide to my community. It all aligned in the opportunity to step out and start my own financial planning practice in partnership with Inspire. But yeah, I think it's definitely a step that is nerve-wracking. But once you've done it, it's like you've already taken the first step. So the momentum carries you to 2 and 3 and 4. That's the hardest thing, is just taking that first step to make the transition. Yeah.
So that's a perfect segue to Manghum Consulting.
Yeah.
And how you've been able to form this partnership or agreement with Inspire.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about the inner workings of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Manghum Consulting honestly started as just a little bit of a passion project on the side. Like, in addition to helping people with their finances, I had an opportunity through another consulting firm to go and speak to students that were at a junior college, a predominantly Black institution, and they wanted someone that looked like them to go and talk about being successful in college and being successful post-college. And in an environment where a lot of people felt like their out was sports or music letting people know there's other paths. You can learn things from your sporting and your musical experiences, but here's how it applies to the real world. And it was one event that I got sent on by this consulting company, and I said, I really like that. I really like empowering people, sharing my knowledge, showing these kids there's other ways to make a career in a life. I said, hey, next one, sign me up. I'm in. And they kept doing it and kept doing it. And so ultimately, from just kind of a smart financial standpoint, I created the LLC to receive those monies and have my write-offs and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately now it's grown to the point where my compliance team at the financial firm needs to know where the lines separate. So that's why you see more of the delineation from Manghum Consulting. But I truly felt as though my purpose is developing leaders that develop leaders. I get to do that in one capacity through the financial lane, but I didn't want to limit myself to just that because I didn't feel it was all encompassing of all the things I want to give back to the people I get to work with. So that's how that came about, and it's just continued to grow. I've just taken the next step in both of those lanes every time.
So do you feel as though you have defined success for your own life? And if so, what was that moment where you said, this is who I am, this is what I want to do? And I know you've been talking about your purpose aligning with your work, right? What was that moment where you kind of came to that reckoning, if you do have defined your success?
I think a way I knew that I was defining success for myself is I wasn't looking left and right anymore. I wasn't concerned with what success looked like for Aaron or for anyone else, right? It's like, I know this is what success looks like for me. And I can't take credit for getting to that point. It was actually an exercise that the president of our firm walked us through. We talk about people being successful in 5 main areas of life: relationships with family and friends, career or purpose, hopefully end purpose if you're one of those lucky people.
Yes.
Personal finances, physical well-being and health, and then emotional and spiritual well-being. And so what we did was an exercise where we fast forwarded into the future. He asked kind of a crazy question. He said, what age are you going to die, right? And it's not that we were predicting it, but most people have a number pop in their head. And for me, it was 87, right? Kind of random. But then he asked this follow-up question that was, at 87, what has to be true in each one of those areas for you to say with confidence, I ran my race well.
Wow.
I lived a life and a legacy I'm proud of. I'm leaving something great for the next generation. And I had to sit there and articulate what that looks like relationally, professionally, in finances, my all of that, right? Once I was able to put some verbiage to that, now I had a blueprint for long-term success. And really all I'm doing on a daily and weekly basis is
living out what you...
That's it. And building habits and putting things in place and prioritizing things on my calendar so that life reality is just a natural progression of these things I'm doing on a daily basis.
Wow.
Once I had that framework, I felt like I could confidently say I've defined success.
Wow, that's powerful. So in this vein of financial freedom and whatnot that you're giving to it, or you are allowing people to experience, tell us, what is a tidbit you would give us around? I'm gonna say the whole thing again. So in the vein of financial freedom that you are sharing with individuals, what would you say is a quick tidbit you would give individuals for their own financial freedom?
That's so good. Where I encourage so many people to start is by understanding their current financial narrative.
Okay.
If you look at, therapy's it has grown. It's a very popular thing. We talk about it a lot more freely now than we did 10, 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
But when you start in therapy, they always have you tell your story to this point, right? Before we go about fixing whatever issue you're here for or whatever it might be, it's like, tell the story to this point so we can identify the foundation and where there may need to be some repair.
Right.
Not that it's broken beyond repair, but where can we add to it, heal it, so that it can be stronger moving forward.
Yeah.
So what I see so often is people say, I'm here financially, I want to be there. What are the practical, tactical steps that I need to take? But the reality is you need to figure out, what is your financial narrative? What is your mindset around money? Because if you're trying to create an abundant financial vision and you're chasing abundance and wealth goals
with a scarcity mindset,
with a scarcity and poverty mindset, you're just going to self-sabotage.
Yes.
So how was money spoken about growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Was it spoken about, right? Your first experience, maybe starting a business or stepping out in a career, or maybe you went through a separation or a divorce and it caused financial devastation. Like all of those things factor into what we tell ourselves about money. So we need to identify where we're at right now, because there may be some mindset things that need to be repaired in order for you to be able to go chase these financial goals and dreams that you have. But very few people start there.
Yeah.
We get straight into, how much do I need to save?
Right.
Do I need a Roth IRA? Should I put money in a brokerage? Hey, all that stuff's great.
Right.
But once you know your narrative and you have a purpose for your money, let that other stuff fall into place.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Basically what you're saying is those are tools, those are vehicles.
Yeah.
But first you need to learn how to drive.
That's right.
Right. Let's get you your license. And then once we get you your license, you can use these vehicles to take you where you need to go.
Yes, that's perfect.
I love that. How do you hold on to hope? You went through some pivotal things. You talked about your basketball career, pivoting from basketball into finance and some other things in the middle, right? And then finding your purpose. How did you find yourself holding on to hope?
Man, that's a really tough one. I think having hope truly is just a part of who I am because of my faith and what I believe, right? I know greater things are ahead.
Yeah.
I know my life is serving a purpose in the grand scheme of things. Like I truly believe like that this is not a meaningless existence that I have. So it's easy to have hope when you have that type of belief system in general. But one thing I do know is I believe if you have a clear vision and you have an avenue and a plan on how to accomplish that vision, it is only natural that you would face resistance because not only is it developing perseverance in you, which is required to be successful at each new level, right? It takes a level of perseverance. But what I've learned too in the financial, and I had a very, very tough first couple of years in the business. And I'm like, why is this happening? I had my Moses in the burning bush moment. Like I knew I was supposed to do this. And I watched a TED talk that helped me figure out I wanted to be in the finance industry. It's like, why is all this happening? What I've learned now at this point is my story helps someone else.
That's it.
So I can always have hope because I know this is either me stepping into a new level of success, or it's a learning opportunity, or it's a hardening, or it's creating perseverance in me so that I can help the next person navigate something difficult too. So I guess in a way that's how I hold on to hope, because I don't see the negative as negative. I don't see the failure as a setback. I just see it as part of the journey of my progression.
That's good. Very good. Okay, so how can folks follow you? What activities do you have coming up?
Yeah.
How do you want people to find you?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit.
So everything on social media at Manghum Consulting.
Okay.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I have probably some of the bigger things coming up is I have a TEDx talk March 30th right here at the University of Tulsa. Beyond that, we'll see. I'm hoping that opens a lot more doors. Many of the other things I have going on right now are kind of private contracts, keynote engagements. I'm working with a couple different leadership teams. So I don't know how free I am to mention who those teams are, but a couple here in Oklahoma, one in kind of California, San Francisco area, and a few others that we're in talks with right now. But just some of those opportunities to get out, speak, work with teams, help build culture. And you can always come see me at my office, 51st Street in Tulsa between Yale and Harvard. So
there you go.
Inspire Financial Group. That's it.
What is the time and date of the TEDx talk?
March 30th, which is a Thursday, and it's from 5 to 8 p.m.
All right.
Here in Tulsa.
How do people get tickets?
There is a link that I've posted to all my social medias.
There you go.
So you should be able to find it that way. Shout out to my social media gal, Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia.
But so that's where people can find it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. This has been amazing. I'm sure that people are enlightened, not just to know you, but to know that they can make it.
Yeah.
Pivots are necessary.
Absolutely.
Change is inevitable. And it's not about what happened. It's about how did you respond to what happened? And so being able to create a narrative out of all the different things that we face in life and rewrite our own story is just so powerful. Thank you for being an ambassador of that, for helping people navigate these waters. And we wish you well in your TEDx.
I appreciate it.
We hope to support soon coming up here. And thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor.
All right. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at New You Tulsa. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newutulsa.com. That is NEWU-Tulsa.com. Follow us on social media at New You Tulsa on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our free cohorts for personal and professional development opportunities. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.